A thorough investigation was conducted by the head of internal investigations, Major General Shadrack Sibiya. It was noted that the problem is not limited to the city of Johannesburg. Mayor Mashaba said between January 2008 and February 2016, these fraudulent transactions were valued at more than 155 million rand nationally. Furthermore, following a leaked internal correspondence from the City of Joburg's office to Joburg Today TV, we are aware of internal suspensions and resignations, in particular from the Department of Finance. The internal correspondence noted that following commissioned forensic investigations based on tip-offs, staff members have either resigned or were suspended. Now, the recruitment process to refill those positions has already begun. These suspensions and resignations were based on serious allegations of maladministration and gross misconduct. The mayor himself concedes that corruption and maladministration is currently endemic in the city of Johannesburg, and that these latest findings are only the tip of the iceberg.
Unfortunately, the corruption in the city of Johannesburg went beyond just being corruption. It was absolute looting, blatant looting of state resources. For me, this arrest of the 106 people in the traffic department, it's a tip of an iceberg. Working with the KPMG and other consulting agencies, I'm sitting right now with cases concluded. It is for that reason this morning I had a 2-hour meeting with the Provisional Divisional Commissioner of Police with the team from the National Prosecuting Authority to express my frustration and wanting to see how we can find a solution, cooperative solution to this. And fortunately enough, I've managed to really get the support. The Provincial Commissioner has given me her undertaking more than 100% that she is going to work with us as a city to ensure that we root out this corruption. The National Prosecuting Authority, obviously the head was not aware of some of the cases that we have already put into the system. He's also assured us that we have his support to ensuring that these cases are brought to the attention of the public. However, I'm saying to people of Johannesburg, I am not going to leave these matters in the hands of anyone. For me as an executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, the responsibility lies with me to ensure that these cases are brought to book, because corruption steals from our poor people. As a city, if I look at the challenges that we are facing, without ensuring that we can get the resources to address these challenges so that we can provide employment opportunities to our people, we can provide a cleaner, safer city, to ensure that the housing, which is a major challenge to our city, these major challenges, the infrastructure backlog, there's decaying, aging electricity and water infrastructure. I need the resources for that. And if I look at the balance sheet of the city at this point in time, if I'm not going to increase the revenue streams, we're in trouble as a city. We're in trouble as a country. Therefore, I am not going to let criminal elements derail or actually hold this city to ransom.
Here's what you, the public, had to say about this.
Well, corruption in the city of Johannesburg is a massive, all-encompassing thing. Not sure how we're going to get away from it. I think there have been some major strides with the DA taking over. I think they've shown some initiative. It's still a massive problem.
The main problem with it is it's very insidious, and it kind of, corrupts the whole value system. And if it starts at the top, it filters down, and the more we engage about it with one another, the more we can kind of band together and not allow it to happen.
You get corruption everywhere, and it just kind of like takes away that urge to even be what you want to be in Gauteng. It should be the city of love, of laughter, of art, of I mean, of a lot of opportunities, but it's taken away from us by people that are greedy.
So I feel that they need to get rid of some people to get the corruption in order. And yeah, I think that's more or less, if they get rid of the main person, it will all get better again.
I think corruption is probably the worst possible thing that can happen to any community. Terrorism is better than corruption because you know what's coming. With corruption, it hurts everybody, it hurts everywhere, and it's perverse. So it's terrible. Probably the most terrible thing that's happening.
Hello, my name is Michaela Russell, and you're watching Joburg Today.
In light of all of this, we deemed it necessary to have a thorough discussion with Corruption Watch, an organization dedicated to ensure that the custodians of public resources act responsibly to advance the interests of the public and to ensure that opportunities for entering into corrupt relationships are reduced. What do you make of the new administration's position on fighting corruption in the city of Johannesburg and the launch of this new anti-corruption team?
Yeah, I'm impressed by, the robust position that the mayor and the administration have taken against corruption. I kind of sometimes find myself wishing that they wouldn't politicize the issue of corruption quite as much as they do, but I suppose that's what you expect from political leaders. Although I think that this is a real national problem. I mean, I think the Premier of Gauteng, who's an ANC political leader, is as devoted to fighting corruption, and I think it would be great if the new DA mayors found it in themselves and he found it in himself to cooperate with each other on this issue. But I'm, underline that I'm impressed by the robust stance that is being taken. I think setting up a new anti-corruption unit is probably the way to go. I mean, we have a bit of a proliferation of those kind of initiatives, some of which have not led to much, but it probably is the way to go, and I'm impressed by the appointment of General Sibiya to head this unit, because I'm afraid consequences and punishment is what is needed. It's at least one of the very important things that is needed, and there seems to be a commitment to doing that.
Why do you in particular commend the Gauteng Premier for his position on fighting corruption?
The administration of Johannesburg is different to the administration of the province, and my allusion is to the Premier of the province, whose public pronouncements I found impressive. Some of the action he's taken I've found impressive. And I have to say, in the work that we're doing, we find that they are unusually willing to listen to what we have to say to them, to act on what we have to say to them. It doesn't mean that we are in bed with them or that we don't ever have serious disagreements with them, and we do. But they have demonstrated to us, not only the Premier himself, but certain of his key MECs, a willingness to really tackle corruption. I really like what the Provincial Department of Finance is doing around procurement rules. I think they're trying to implement real global best practice in how to prevent corruption. So I think I'm impressed by that. I think that, the lesson that we have learnt is that don't sit back and be satisfied with any government that you get or any party that runs that government, because sooner rather than later you'll discover that if you relax as a public, if you relax your vigilance, any government is going to be corrupt. The lure of those vast public resources appears to be just too much for anyone with unrestricted access to those resources to resist. And so I think, yes, the previous administration, there have been huge problems of corruption. There are still huge problems of corruption. But I think, one wants to be as vigilant in relation to the DA city administrations as one needs to be with respect to the ANC provincial government and with respect to the national government.
Corruption is a global challenge. From your research, can you say confidently that there is some kind of best practice out there, some kind of silver bullet that one can use, whether from a government perspective or from a civil society perspective, to really stamp out corruption?
I mean, there's not a magic formula or a silver bullet for fighting corruption. You know, I can tell you that in our circumstances, and these pretty much mirror them of all other countries that are really beset by corruption, our biggest problem is the impunity that those at the top enjoy, that those with political power and access to wealth enjoy, and the toxic combination of those two powers, money power and political power. And then the state of our law enforcement authorities, the state of our law enforcement authorities. And you know, you would expect in a society where the very top of the political leadership and some of the business leadership have reasons to fear an independent prosecutorial authority or an independent investigative authority, it stands to reason that those would be the first who would be enormously compromised. But until we get that combination right, until we get a law enforcement authorities and prosecutorial authorities that are willing to do their jobs as they are meant to do them, and political leadership that will not interfere with their independence when they do their jobs, we are going to be really struggling to overcome corruption, because corruption at the top cascades down. You know, when people see the president and ministers and heads of parastatals and leading business people getting away with it, the next layer imagines that they can as well, and they will be protected by the layer above them, because they are often the people who know what the layer above them is doing. So this is what we've got to tackle, and it's pretty much a common pattern elsewhere. But I stress, as we did at the beginning, that we need to tackle petty corruption as well. It's not only the Nkandlas and the SABCs and the nuclear deals that we need to stamp on, but we need to improve the sort of everyday life and experiences that the public have of their public sector, if we are to really tackle corruption and get people to believe that it can be tackled.
And that's it for this show. We would love to hear from you. So like us on Facebook, joburgtoday.tv, and follow us on Twitter at Joburg Today. For more coverage on the city also, check out our playlist. And that's it from me, Nashina, wishing you an awesome day.